how much are the Dodgers going to be involved? How much are they going to get involved in Kyle Tucker? Are they going to actually, quote unquote, ruin baseball?
It will embolden enough owners to demand a salary cap because the Dodgers seem to be getting all the free agents.
All right, listen up. The Dodgers just finished celebrating their second straight World Series championship. And you know what they did the next morning? They woke up and said, yeah, that's cool, but let's go out and get Kyle Tucker. I'm not even kidding. While the champagne was still sticky on the clubhouse floor, while Freddie Freeman was still nursing the mother of all hangovers, while Yoshinobu Yamamoto was still coming off one of the most crazy postseason performances I've ever seen, the Dodgers front office was already on the phone. They were already scheming. They were already plotting their next Hall of Fame acquisition, because that's what champions do, right? They don't rest. They don't get comfortable. They just get right back at it. And look, I get it. A lot of you guys are probably out there rolling your eyes right now saying, oh great, here we go again. The Dodgers are buying another championship. This is so unfair. Baseball needs a salary cap. This is ruining the sport. And you know what? I hear you, but stick with me here because this story is way more complicated than just that. And honestly, it could impact the future of baseball. But before we get into the video today, guys, we are on the road to 50K subscribers. Thank you guys for all the support on the channel. If you're not already, please subscribe, turn those notifications on. We are giving away a jersey to a lucky winner every single upload who has that done. With that being said, this upload's winner is Judah Nope 5022. Congratulations, bro. Reach out to me and I will get you that jersey. Now that that's out of the way, let's get right into it. Now, let me take you back to the World Series for a second, because here's the crazy thing about it. The Dodgers batted .203 as a team. You heard that right, .203. That's awful. In fact, that's the worst batting average by a World Series champion since 1966. The Dodgers weren't just outscored or out-hit. This 2025 Blue Jays team literally broke the record for runs scored in the postseason. Ernie Clement broke the record for hits in a single playoff run. This was a special offense, but the Dodgers simply just came through when it mattered most. And it also helps that they had 4 legitimate ace pitchers that they could throw at you during any point of the game. But here's the thing that the Dodgers front office knows, that Andrew Friedman knows, that everyone in that organization knows. They got lucky. Not in a, oh, they didn't deserve it type of a way. That probably ends a different way 9 times out of 10 kind of a way. This wasn't some dominant World Series run where they just steamrolled everybody. This was survival. This was grinding out wins when your offense is ice cold and hoping your pitching can take you over the line. So what are the Dodgers gonna do? Well, they looked at their roster and said, okay, what's the weakest link here? And the answer was pretty obvious. The outfield, specifically left field. Michael Conforto was basically invisible all season, hitting a measly 199 with basically no power from the left field position. And that's just not gonna cut it. Not for a team with championship expectations every single year. Enter Kyle Tucker. Kyle Tucker is a 4-time All-Star, a Gold Glove winner. He's won a Silver Slugger. He led the American League in RBIs in 2023. This past season with the Cubs, he hit .266 with an OPS of 841, smashed 22 home runs, drove in 73 runs, and stolen 25 bases. He's the total package. He can hit for average, he can hit for power, he can run, he can play defense. He's a prototypical modern-day outfielder. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Tucker had kind of a weird season in 2025 because the first half, the dude was playing like an MVP candidate. He was absolutely raking, crushing the ball, looking like he was about to get paid generational wealth type of money. He had 17 long balls with an OPS approaching 900. But then he fractured his hand in July and he just wasn't quite the same. He hit just .231 in the second half, and then he got hit with a calf injury in September that knocked him out for the majority of the month. Some people are looking at that and going, injury concerns, age 29 next year. That second half slump is worrying. And you know what? They're not gonna be a little cautious. ESPN's David Schoenfeld even said there are some Anthony Rendon vibes here. A super talented player who's been injured 2 years in a row right before hitting free agency. But the Dodgers, they just don't care. Or maybe they do care, but at least they're willing to take that risk, because that's what you do when you're trying to build a dynasty. You don't play it safe. You go after the best available players and you figure out the rest later. And according to John Heyman of the New York Post, the Dodgers are expected to make a play for Tucker. In fact, Heyman says that the Dodgers people are said to love Tucker, and outfield is their one area of less than great strength. Now, let's talk money. Tucker's camp is reportedly looking for somewhere in the neighborhood of anywhere from $300 million to potentially even $450 million. Some projections even have him getting a 10-year, $427 million deal. Others think it could go even higher if multiple big market teams get in the bidding war. Personally, if I had to guess, I think Kyle Tucker's deal is easily going to clear 400, and if the bidding war is competitive enough, I can even see a world where Tucker walks away with 500. And this is where the Dodgers have a massive advantage. You want to know how much payroll space they have coming off the books in free agency? About $66 million. Their payroll is going to drop from $395 million this year to about $329 million next year without them doing anything. That means they could sign Tucker to a massive deal, stay under what they spent this year, and still have room to make other moves. That's insane. Just let that sink in for a second. They just won the World Series with the highest payroll in baseball history. And now they're going to spend even more money. They're going to add even more talent, because why not? Who's willing to compete with them financially? Now, this is where I know a lot of you guys are going to get fired up. I can feel it through the screen. You're thinking about typing angry comments in the comment section about how this is all ruining baseball and how there needs to be a salary cap, how it's not fair that the Dodgers just continue to outspend every other team. And look, I'm not going to stand here and say that you're wrong, because you're not entirely wrong. The Dodgers' total payroll of 2025 was $350 million. That's roughly double the league average. That's more than some teams like the A's, Marlins, Pirates, and Rays spend combined. Their luxury tax penalty alone this year was $167 million. That's more than 15 teams spend on their entire roster. Just the penalty, not the actual salaries, the penalty. That is insane. And yes, there are serious discussions happening right now about whether baseball needs a salary cap. The current collective bargaining agreement expires after the 2026 season, and there's a very real chance we could be looking at a lockout if the owners push hard for a cap and the players union pushes back. Some owners like the Rockies' Dick Monfort and the Orioles' David Rubenstein have been pretty vocal about wanting a salary cap implemented. Why? Well, I think it's just because they don't want to spend money.
When you are Kyle Tucker and his representative, you do not want one team bidding on Kyle Tucker. You want every team bidding on Kyle Tucker. But if you can only choose two teams, you got to make sure one of them is the Dodgers.
Why does ex-Marlins GM David Samson say this? Because the Dodgers are one of just a few teams willing to actually spend. But here's my thing. Here's where I'm probably going to make some of you guys mad, but I'm going to just go for it anyways. Okay, so stick with me. Before you start screaming about how the Dodgers need to be stopped, let me ask you something. Why aren't you screaming at the owners of the Pirates, the A's, the Marlins, the Rays, and all these other teams that are basically printing money but refusing to spend it on actual ball players? Because here's the uncomfortable truth that nobody really wants to talk about. MLB has revenue sharing. Teams like the Dodgers and Yankees and Mets contribute almost half of their local revenue to a central pool, and then that money gets redistributed to all 30 teams equally. So teams like the Pirates and the A's and the Rays are getting massive checks from the league every single year. They're getting revenue sharing money. They're getting luxury tax money from teams like the Dodgers who blow past their threshold. And what are they doing with it? They're pocketing it. They're putting it straight into their bank account and putting out rosters that cost less than what some individual players make. The Oakland A's spent less than $150 million over the entire 2024 and 2025 seasons combined. That's 2 full years. The Dodgers spent more than that just on their luxury tax penalty this year. It got so bad, the Marlins were almost sued for not spending their allocated money on baseball-related facilities and assets. Now, look, I'm not saying every owner can spend like the Dodgers. I get it. The Dodgers play in Los Angeles, the second biggest media market in the country. They have a massive TV deal. They're valued at $7.73 billion and brought in $855 million in revenue in 2024. Not every team can match that. The Pirates can't spend like the Dodgers. The Royals definitely can't spend like the Dodgers. And I get that. but I just think that they can spend more than what they are currently spending. They can invest in their teams a little bit more. They can try to compete. And instead, a lot of these owners are just collecting their revenue sharing checks and crying poverty while their fans suffer through another 100-loss season year after year. So yeah, maybe instead of demanding that the Dodgers spend less, we should be demanding that these other owners spend more. Maybe the problem isn't that there's no salary cap. Maybe the problem is that there's no salary floor that actually forces teams to invest in winning. If you want to institute some rules on deferred money and what is and is not acceptable, that's fine too. But the salary cap is inherently anti-player and pro-bad ownership. But anyways, back to the Dodgers. According to various reports, the Dodgers are also potentially looking to upgrading their bullpen. As we know, their bullpen was kind of a mess during the regular season. They ranked bottom 10 in ERA with a 4.27, and it didn't get much better in the playoffs as they sported a mediocre 3.84 ERA. And remember those huge deals they gave to Kirby Yates and Tanner Scott before the season? Yeah, both of those guys were pretty bad. Yates didn't even make the postseason roster, and Scott had to be removed during the NLDS because of an infection. So they basically lit millions of dollars on fire with those signings. But it's not just about spending more for the Dodgers. They do all of this while also being one of the smartest organizations in baseball. This isn't just about money. Yes, they do spend a lot, but they spend it intelligently. They use deferred money to lower their luxury tax hit. Shohei Ohtani's contract is $700 million. But $680 million of that is deferred, paid out over decades. So instead of his deal counting as $70 million per year against the luxury tax, it only counts as 46. On top of that, they draft well, they develop players, they make shrewd trades, and then on top of all of that, they just also outspend everybody else. Now, let's talk about the competition for Tucker, because it's not like the Dodgers are the only team in the mix here. The Giants have been trying to land a big-time offensive star for years now. Former GM Steve Phillips thinks the Giants could actually outbid the Dodgers for Tucker, reasoning that the new Giants president Buster Posey would love to stick it to his rivals. After years of whiffing on guys like Aaron Judge and Shohei Ohtani, the Giants finally traded for Rafael Devers and signed Willy Adames. So maybe they make a big push for Tucker too. Now, we always got to talk about the Yankees because they're always in the mix in the offseason when it comes to signings. Although I'm not so sure where Tucker would fit when they already have such an overcrowded outfield. Now, I do think the Phillies would be a great fit. They definitely need some outfield help. And the Blue Jays, fresh off of the World Series run, might want to make a statement by keeping their momentum going with a huge signing. But we all know where this could be headed. The Dodgers are going to offer Tucker something stupid like 10 years, $420 million, with half of it deferred, so it barely impacts their luxury tax number. And Tucker is going to look at that offer and look at the chance to play with Ohtani, Betts, and Freeman in Los Angeles on a team that just won back-to-back championships and say, yeah, I'm gonna go there. Because that's what the Dodgers do now. They just win. They identify what they need, they go and get it, and they win. Rinse and repeat. Now, here's my take on all this, and I'm going to try to keep it real with you guys. I think the Dodgers signing Kyle Tucker would actually be good for baseball. Yeah, I said it, and hear me out. We're living in this weird moment where everyone wants parity. Everyone wants every team to have a chance. But at the same time, sports are better when you have villains. They're better when you have teams to root against. They're better when there's drama and there's stakes and someone's always trying to build something historic. If you remember the Yankees dynasty in the late 90s and early 2000s, people absolutely hated that team. But you know what? Baseball was thriving. Everyone was tuned in to watch them either win or hopefully lose. The Warriors dynasty in the NBA, people absolutely hated them. But NBA's ratings were through the roof. Even in the NFL, during the 2000s and 2010s, during the Patriots dynasty, football was the most popular sport in America by far, but everyone would tell you, screw the Patriots. And so now we have the Dodgers who are becoming baseball's current villains. And honestly, we need that. We need someone for the other 29 fan bases to unite against. We need a team that makes every other organization look up at them and say, we need to figure out a way to beat these guys. And maybe, just maybe, that competitive pressure will force some of these cheapskate owners to actually open their wallets. Maybe watching the Dodgers win year after year while their team finished last place will finally make these owners realize they need to invest in winning instead of just maximizing profits. Because here's what's really wild about all of this. This year actually proved that money doesn't automatically automatically win you championships. Now, I know the Dodgers won, they had the highest payroll, but the Mets spent $342 million and didn't even make the playoffs, and the Yankees spent over $300 million, and we all know how that train wreck ended. So money helps, sure, but you also need to be smart. You need player development, you need good coaching, you need health, you need luck, you need it all to come together. And the Dodgers have it all. And that's what makes them so special and so infuriating at the exact same time. So yeah, let them sign Kyle Tucker. Let them build their super team. Let them try to three-peat. Because at the end of the day, it's gonna make baseball more interesting, not less. It's gonna give us storylines to follow all offseason and all season long. And who knows, maybe this is the push that finally forces MLB to implement real change. Maybe this is what finally gets us a salary floor to force these cheap owners to actually spend money. Maybe this accelerates those conversations about competitive balance in a way that actually helps the sport long term. Or maybe the Dodgers just win the World Series again next year and everyone gets even more mad. Either way, it's gonna be fun to watch. Love them or hate them, you've gotta respect them. This is how you build a dynasty in modern baseball. This is how you take advantage of a system that allows you to spend whatever you want if you're willing to pay the penalties. This is how you create something that people will be talking about for decades. But let me know in the comments below. Will the Dodgers be the ones to get Kyle Tucker? Is that going to be a good thing or bad thing for the league in terms of this ownership problem and money spending problem that we have going on? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks again for tuning in. I'll see you guys on the next one.